Well, basically the farm is a farm owned by Landcorp New Zealand, which is a part of the government state-owned enterprise. Farm is 323 hectares effective, 352 total. Yeah, converted to dairy. Well, this is the sixth season, so yeah, we're just about through the sixth season now. Conversion was done by myself. I came here and oversaw the conversion, yeah, it's just about 6 years ago since I moved here. Basically, we're milking about 1,050 cows, split calving around the 250 to 300 in the autumn and 700 in the spring. So yeah, that's sort of how it is through a 70 barrel rotary. Staff for this, there's myself, there's a herd manager and 4 dairy assistants. So yeah, total of 6 of us. I pretty much look after the management side of it and do the relief milking nowadays. I'm not full-time in the shed anymore. Yeah, wife Joy, she's involved, she does all the calf rearing. Yeah, we do 2 lots of calves, of course, with split calving. You get autumn calves and spring calves. So yeah, she's rearing all the replacements from both of those. Plus we also do up to 200 Frisian bulls for finishing on the Landcorp farm next door. So we buy those in at 4 days old and then she rears them through to 100 kilos when they go next door. So it's another little enterprise within itself. Fantastic. And we also have a 400 acre runoff on the Martinborough Road. What's that, 13, 14 k's from here, that I look after, and we winter all the cows there and run the calves there and grow supplements. And
the day-to-day running, I leave that to Andrew and the staff, but when it comes to the calf rearing, I'm very much involved. I run the calf rearing operation, which is, there's 1,000 cows calve here, and I take 400 of them through to weaning, and we're now calving twice a year, so 400 in the spring and about 100 in the autumn time calving. And I'm in charge of making sure that those calves are coming in. The boys bring them into me into the shed and make sure that they're fed colostrum for 4 days, twice a day. We make sure that the calves are in a draft-free and warm environment. It's really important. You can't get growth on a calf unless they're warm.
The land itself was basically swamp back in the late 60s, and was basically developed from there. It can get extremely wet in the winter and quite dry in the summer. Some of it is below sea level. The farm's also part of what they call a Te Haupai drainage scheme, which is covers an area of about 2,500 hectares. And yeah, we've got the pumps on us, so all the water from the rest of it come here, so it makes life interesting. Part of the Landcorp thing is that we renovate 10% of the farm a year, so that's 30 hectares for us. We do that through summer crops, turnips, pasture. We're looking at a little bit of sorghum this year to see whether or not that'll fit what we want to do, and then back into grass in the autumn. In the mid-80s, National was in power and they were doing ballot farms, and this block was going to be 4 80 hectare dairy farms to get us to 320 hectares, that's right. So they planted a lot of shelter and things like that at that time. There's a lot of pine trees that were planted at that time that are probably come past their use by date. So we're slowly removing them and replanting them with species that'll provide us with some shelter and some shade and that are easy to maintain. Part of the policy when we converted the property was that all waterways were fenced off, so that was just dealt with pretty much immediately. Yeah, and it just keeps the stock out of them. And yeah, well, the sawdust standing pad, that's basically somewhere for the cows to go when it's wet in the winter so they don't damage the pasture. We were losing probably up to 40% of what we were feeding out in the paddock. The cows were just walking it into the ground and doing a lot of damage in the meantime. Normally when we get a flood, it's in the middle of calving as well, so that adds another problem that you've got to deal with. And when you're running a big operation like this and you're milking all year round, you've got effluent disposal to deal with. And you've got to be very careful about where the irrigator's going during a flood so that it's not spraying into waterways. Try and keep it on the driest ground possible. And we're going to have to look at probably storing our effluent over the winter. That's probably going to be the next step for us, so that we're not actually irrigating it out there when the ground's wet, so that we minimise runoff. So there's all those sort of things to take into consideration. Pretty much in the cow shed we've got been pretty lucky to have a lot of some of the latest technology there. We've got ProTrack, which we can draft cows, monitor treatments. We know what cows in each bale. We can weigh her as she leaves the shed. You know, not this October gone, the October before we had a howling southerly where it forced cows on top of each other You know, we actually lost 2 cows through smothering, where they got pushed down on the ground in a southerly in the corner of a paddock and got walked over. And when we got them, hypothermia had set in. We put them in the shed, but you know, we just couldn't do anything. And they actually lost 60 kilos of body weight through not eating. So yeah, once the sun came out, we had to feed them big time to get them back up there again. It took them about 3 days to put that 60 kilos back on again. We've also got Milk Hub, which monitors the amount of milk that each cow gives, their mastitis level, and it also monitors like plant cleaning, the water, the amount of water going through each set of cups, the temperature, all that sort of stuff, how much air is getting in there. So yeah, it's allowed us to really sharpen our act up as far as quality of milk's concerned. You know, our cell count's always around the 200,000 or just under, which is not bad for a big herd. So yeah, no, certainly got some technology there that we're utilising. We've got probably 55 to 60% of the farm in fescue. Certainly got some management issues with it. It's got to be on a short rotation. The palatability can go off quite quickly. So yeah, it creates its own management issues, but yeah, we're learning to farm with it. It certainly protects us a little bit over the summer, a little bit slower in the spring. Like we have a fertiliser reconciliation where, you know, we've got a paper trail within the company, and it stems right from when the fertiliser plan was done. So we have a plan as to what fertiliser was to go on, where it was to go, what rates, so we can follow that right through and actually generate a map from the fertiliser truck to say that that's where it went and that's what rate it went on and what day it was. So yeah, it's going to be quite interesting.
I'm a Waikato girl and through and through, and I said to Andrew I'd come for a year, and then after year 1 I says, well, I come for 2 years, and we're here nearly 6 years later, and yeah, I'm quite happy, quite settled.